Today we're going to be taking a look at this Warhammer toy from Joytoy. More recently, you've probably seen them on the TikTok shop doing a lot of the Warhammer figures, which are highly detailed, but Joytoy's been at this for quite a while. In fact, I got turned on to them, I think, on Instagram because some of their stuff was just outstanding, like the robots and all this other stuff that they're doing. Very highly detailed, very highly articulated, and the Warhammer stuff, of course, it has the tabletop history, right? But this is just all done. This is all painted complete, articulated, everything about that. So I was really excited when they sent this over to me. I wanted to get a very detailed look at it. So this one in particular, this comes from the Horus Heresy. This is one of the Sons of Horus, and it is a Mark IV Tactical Squad Legionary with Bolter. But Bolter isn't the only thing that we're getting in this box. We are getting some alternate hands, we are getting a giant chainsaw sword, we're getting a stand, a backpack, and a lot of articulation. So let's get this guy out of the box. Let's see what he's all about. So here's how the figure comes in the box. It's in a blister and it's got a whole ton of accessories. The biggest one, of course, being the backpack that fits on this 2-peg system. So we're just gonna socket this on and we are going to complete our Legionary. So there he is. And now he comes with a few hands. This one looks like he has a trigger finger hand, and then this one also looks like it just holds things. So I'm guessing this one is for the bolter. The other one is just for the chainsaw sword, but there's also other hands in the box too. So we have some closed fists. We also have like an open hand that would be able to carry his weapon a little bit or just have a nice relaxed hand pose, which is always great to see included with these things. And then of course on the alternate hand, we also have another trigger finger hand because we have 2 machine guns in the box here as accessories. The accessories, let's just talk about those for a second because they are so highly detailed. For the chainsaw sword here, on the teeth of it, it is a gunmetal, and then on this body of it, it's a darker gunmetal, and then we have some details here with the handle, the little bit of red. This all looks very good, and then when you see that in conjunction with the character, you all start to get a picture of just how highly detailed these Joytoy Warhammer figures are. You can see elements of dry brushing around these. I'm guessing these are booster packs. I'm sorry, I don't know too much Warhammer 40k lore, but I know just enough to kind of get by very slightly. But what I do know is some good toys, some good detail, some good articulation. So that's what I'm taking a look at here. And as we continue this look at the figure, we have this dry brushing on these, I'm guessing, exhaust vents, jump pack, things like that. And then on one of his pauldrons, we have all these studs on there that is a gold copper color. If we look at his other pauldron, we do have his insignia for the Legion he's part of. And then we also have some detailing around this pauldron as well. But it doesn't stop there. If you look ever so slightly around the cuff of his boots, you'll see that it's weathered. You'll see that it's a little bit grimy, dirty. Looks like this character has been marching through some really grimy dirt. And then when we look at his bandolier on the front here, there are very clear elements of dry brushing. And as you see, like he kind of came out of the box in a sassy pose where his hip is kind of kicked out a little bit, but you do have a lot of range. There is a ball joint right here, which gives a lot of movement in the upper half. And then the legs, they have double joints. Mind you, this is a 1/18th scale figure. You might be wondering how it's possible. It comes down to the price of these things. To have this range of motion, to have all of these extra accessories, hand sculpts, pieces and parts that all socket onto, something like this figure is going to come in a little higher than some of your standard 6-inch Hasbro figures. But if detail and accuracy is what you're looking for in Warhammer, and then also time, because Warhammer figures, you have to paint those yourself. If you want to value your time and paint supplies, well then these start to look like a much cheaper option. Let's start around similar scale. So here we have one of the Playmates Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures from the Mutant Mayhem line. Here we have our Legionary. You can see that they stand roughly around the same size. This one looks a lot more lifelike, where this one just looks more like a toy. Of course, the price differential on these things is pretty incredible. This figure comes in at about $10. This is about 3 or 4 times the cost of it, depending on if you find one of these on sale or not. Now let's talk about G.I. Joe Classified Series. This is a 1/12th scale action figure. Here we have the 1/18th scale. You can see the difference here. This is a much smaller figure, but in terms of detail, we're not really sacrificing much of anything. If I'm being completely honest, I would say that this figure right here has more detail on it. I'm not just talking about detail in pants and stuff like that. This Warhammer look is very set in stone, but it just comes down to things like weathering and paint applications. There's much more happening here than there is here. We're talking about price. A basic G.I. Joe classified figure comes in at about $25, and then here, $30, $40. The other thing that I want to compare it to is one of the G1 YOLO Park model kits, because I think this is the most direct comparison in terms of detail and articulation on a figure. So as we can see, the height, there's quite a bit difference in here, but honestly, because Transformers are so large, it doesn't feel too weird to have these standing next to each other. But when you look at some of the details, so we see Starscream here with all of the paneling done on the wings and around the legs and arms and feet and things like that. Then we look at our Legionary here, he has all this dry brushing, different paint applications, different accessories that go on him or remove and add. Like, there's a lot of similarity going on here. Now, this is going to be a much more expensive figure because not only do we have the detail, we also have the size. I guess what I really want to highlight with this figure from Joytoy is just the attention to detail. Just because it is a smaller figure doesn't mean that you're going to get just injection molded plastic all assembled and then pushed out the door in a box. There's a lot of painting that goes on with this, which is a great connection to the tabletop world of Warhammer because that's all painting based. And here I don't have to lift a brush. So yeah, throughout all of the comparisons that I just showed you, this figure still stands apart as being exceptional for the things that it does really well. Now let's put the bolter in his hand because this is a very classic weapon for our Warhammer figure. And it fits so well, the way that the trigger finger just kicks out just enough so that it fits in the trigger well there, and it holds securely onto the bolter, gives it a very, very tough hold on there that's not going anywhere. I can shake this around. He is keeping his hand on his bolter like his life depends on it. Now ultimately, we need to put more weapons in this guy's hand, so we're gonna put his chainsaw sword in the other hand, and we can begin to see a lot of the great articulation that goes on with this figure. So his wrist moves very nicely. Unlike a lot of Hasbro figures that I'm kind of used to, the way that the hands work are a little bit different. Because on the end of the hand, where it sockets into the rest of the arm, it is the open ball joint. So out of his forearm sticks the ball joint, and this is the accepting hand to that. So you do have a lot of great range of movement, but if you do over crank on it a little bit, you do run the risk of it popping out. But I would say for the most part, most normal use, if you're posing this guy carefully, if you're not trying to go too quickly, you won't run into that issue. The other thing to know is that the pauldrons of this character are attached to the shoulder, so I can move it all the way around. The pauldrons aren't fixed in place, so that I can get a big, almost 360-degree angle with this thing. The only thing that's kind of running into it is the backpack, so I would have to take that off or swing the arm out. There we go, I got the 360 shoulder swivel. Just gotta kick out the arm a little bit. There are double-jointed elbows. It doesn't have a complete flex up, but it has a lot of range for what I would say that the armor allows. There's a lot of stature to this figure, and to have all of the armor be in certain places, the cuts for the articulation were done in such a way where you get a very complete look of the armor, where even when you do articulate it, when you do bend, when you do flex this character in certain poses and positions, it still looks like a very cohesive figure. You don't see all of the seams and joints for the most part. I mean, this is a toy after all, you will see that, but it does a really good job to hide all of those things so that you have a very realistic figure. The belt on our figure here also is very interesting. So this here would be a holster. It doesn't actually work. It is just a nice detail. You can't put the weapon in there because, well, not only does this part not move out, or at least I haven't figured out how to unlatch that leather strap, or I guess plastic strap, it is also filled in. So this is just a chunk of plastic. It is an area of detail. It is not a functional holster. And then the other cool thing too are these grenades on his belt. This is on a ball joint, so these can move, these can bend, these can twist, and they also have a very nice dry brush detailing on there. And of course, when we have the head sculpt here, wow, That just looks so good. It looks like it's jumping off the page. It looks like it's jumping off the board game into real life. These are some fantastic figures, and I'm really appreciating all of the attention to detail because of the weathering, the dry brushing, all of the advanced paint applications here are just incredible to see in such a tiny scale. Normally you would see this in a much larger scale. This level of detail when it comes to Warhammer, miniatures, and the tabletop board game and stuff like that might not be unheard of. But that all comes down to the skill of the painter. But when we have pre-made action figures, things with accessories that are already done up, that are just ready to ship to your door, you don't typically see this level of care put into them. But Joytoy, they know what they're doing with this stuff. Kind of want to take this figure out for a little spin here. We'll put him in some poses. We'll do some cool shots with him. And I'll give you my final thoughts along with it. How does that sound? I am super impressed with what Joytoy has sent over. So here was my expectation, is that the product shots, all this kind of stuff looked really good. And I think it's really easy when you have a perfect environment, when you have these toy photography studios and things like that, to make a toy look really good. I mean, this is just kind of how things go, right? But I was so pleasantly surprised to see that the actual figure, to me, looks better in hand than it does on the internet. But of course, there has to be some consideration for that in the price. These are a very pricey toy when you consider the scale of them, but some of that is helped by, again, the attention to detail, the articulation, but also the accessory kit. They give you more than enough hands, they give you more than enough accessories so that this feels like a fully fleshed out figure, that you can do more things with him and assemble them into a troop, a legion, whatever you want in terms of Warhammer 40K. For whatever reason, I feel like a higher level of responsibility for this figure. There's a lot of artistry that goes into this Joytoy Warhammer figure, and I really want to explore more of what Joytoy has. Now, if I had a deeper understanding of the Warhammer lore, I'm guessing there is a lot more to be excited about than I'm already excited about. I'm looking at it from the lens of a toy, something that is a collectible, and from every indication, from every nook and cranny of this figure, it is a magnificent toy. If you are somebody who likes Warhammer, these are worth checking out if you're not somebody who likes to paint their own tabletop figures, because as somebody who is a collector of cool pop culture things, adding hobbies on top of hobbies can often be problematic for me, and this solves a very niche problem where I don't have to get a whole bunch of paint supplies and learn a whole different skill set. I can just enjoy collecting toys and appreciate the detail that goes along with an IP that has very deep pop culture ties. So to sum it all up, check them out. They're cool, but they're a little bit spendy. But I think it's kind of worth it if you really like that attention to detail. If you like pop culture stuff, if you like action figures and collectibles, well, I talk about those. And if you like other action-based things, I also talk about blasters. If you like all those things, well, then you're going to want to subscribe, you're going to want to like, you're going to want to comment, follow, whatever it takes to get more videos, because every week I'm going to be making new videos for you guys so that we can dive into the world of toys, pop culture, and blasters. That's all I know about the Mark IV Tactical Squad Legionary with Bolter from Joytoy. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.